Cool. So we are discussing the Terraform registry with Matt, who's developing the backend, Nico, who's going to develop the front end, Ian, who's a package product designer, and he's familiar with the product design of the package and registries, and myself, the configure designer, who I've designed the Terraform registry module registry. Okay, sorry.
No worries. So that's a great introduction. So what we're looking at here is just a sample CI configuration for publishing a module. I think the CI template that we put in the product will be very different from this, but the usage of the template would be just include template and the name of the template. So and then you would kind of get some of this stuff. So right now I'm just hard coding a version, but you could base it off of tags, so that if you tag it, we would use the CI commit tag variable to establish what the version should be. And all this is doing is using tar to archive the contents of the repository, and using curl to upload it. The upload for Terraform module works very similarly and is based off of the upload for generic packages, which work like this as well. So there's just a curl. The endpoint is different, of course, but very similarly, you can use, I'm building it to be able to use the 3 different types of token headers, private token, deploy token, and job token, so that it's easy to use curl for this. So it's a very simple curl command.
Is the whole repo your module? So the only contents of this repo is one module?
It's not a rule. I think that's the most common case. That's kind of the it's a Terraform best practice to have a single module per repository, but I can tell you that there's a lot of mono repos out there where it's a folder per per module in a single repo.
Your Terraform code, like your main, could be in the same place as a module, right?
It could, yeah, but then you probably wouldn't be using a module registry in that case. You'd be just including the local module from a folder path. So most likely, if you're using a module registry and you're using you're publishing modules, you're most likely doing it from a repo other than your main Terraform repo.
Okay.
But again, not a rule. There's everything out there, so.
Okay, 2 questions. If you have mixed code, can you still use curl to upload your module, even though your main is in the same repo? Or
yeah, I don't see why not.
How would you pick? Oh, you have a different file, right, for your module?
Yeah, so you would just, in that case, you would just change your tar command to archive a folder path or something.
Okay. And if you have multiple
see if my GDK
modules,
wants to work.
Would you use tar for multiple directories?
So you would do a tar per module, and then you would do a curl per module. So I think that's some of the things we need to figure out in the CI template is probably how to make some reusable pieces to kind of simplify that use case. I don't know if that's really iteration 1 kind of stuff that may come in future iterations though.
Okay.
But in this case, we're creating verbose a gzipped file, and then you can change into a folder. So you could you could go into modules, module 1, and then archive that.
Right.
For instance.
Cool. So then you commit, and basically your module is published after you commit your changes and your MRs passes?
Should be, yeah. So I actually don't know if I have a runner working right now. We'll see. It's always a coin flip in GDK.
What information would be useful for each module? I know the package list doesn't have pipelines and commit shall, but maybe in the future.
We do.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. In my designs, there are none because we didn't publish in this way. And these are the information I was referring to by updating the designs. But maybe I don't need to update the designs if they're out of the box. If
Yeah,
it's
we
on
can go look at the front end next after this, kind of the stuff that we get for free from package, which is actually quite a bit.
perfect. First look at the package designs, and then maybe what bits and pieces are useful for Terraform for the modules. Is everything applicable, or
I'm not sure, so we can take a look. I don't think I got a pipeline to run off of that. It looks like the commit went in, but something went wrong, and it doesn't look like it triggered a pipeline. Actually, it doesn't even seem to think I should have a pipeline. Okay. Supposedly I have a runner and pipelines are enabled. Something is broken in my GDK, I guess. I should have like a new pipeline button. Okay, so I guess we're not doing a demo of CI. But I can show you what a curl looks like. So let me find, yeah. So here I'll be uploading with a private token, with a personal access token, so that will not create a link to a CI job. If you publish using a job token, then you would get a link to a CI job. So I'm just going to publish this tarball. Basically, the project ID will come from CI project ID variable, and then the way that you name your module is basically the module name right here. So the module name is GitLab file. The system it applies to is local. That's a Terraform thing. And then you have a version, and then we're uploading the file for that version. So I'll go ahead and upload 0.8.
Do you have any uniqueness constraints? What I'm asking this is for in the group level, will this generate problems?
Yeah, so the uniqueness constraint is something I think we have to talk about. I think what we want, and I'm not sure if I've gotten this working the way I need it to yet, is we want the package name and version to be unique at the top level namespace. So at the root namespace.
So by instance, you mean? So the whole instance should have unique?
No, not by instance. So just by the top level namespace. So in this case, it would be unique to this.
Oh, okay. So well, they won't be connected directly to groups, right? They're always connected to, so per project.
Yep.
Basically, yeah.
So the packages will upload to a project, but the way that Terraform queries them, the only thing that we get to kind of scope down by is a single namespace. And we had to make a decision whether we wanted to %2f encode all the slashes to drill down to the actual specific project. And what we decided to do was to do the group level instead. So basically, we would search at that level. So like,
and then you would push to the project.
Yeah, so you'd push to the project, but then you would consume the packages by the group.
Oh, okay. Well, sure. No, I don't. I was asking for more for if the UI will like it, yes or no, and yes, the UI will like this. The current UI I'm talking about.
So, sorry, for my understanding, all the projects under a group, all the modules of the projects under a group will be published in the packages of the group level.
Yeah, but specifically the root, so not any subgroups. So I actually have my project is actually in a subgroup, right?
So what happens to the subgroups? They don't get populated to the group level?
They do, but Terraform isn't going to look for them there. So the way that Terraform references modules, if my font size is too small, just let me know. So go ahead and delete some lines that I have commented out. So this is a module source in Terraform. So basically, you can provide a host, which is getting us to the GitLab instance. It then does service discovery based off of the host to find out the API endpoints that it needs to use. And then it provides a namespace, a module name, and a system. They used to call this provider, and they've changed to calling it a system now. Basically, like this would be like local or AWS or GCP or Azure. Like this is the it used to correspond one-to-one to the provider plugin that was being used by the predominantly used by the module, and they've kind of tried to genericize it to a system. But so these are the pieces of information that we have that we can use to locate a module in GitLab. So we felt that we needed to at least scope to a top-level namespace. But then searching under that, it would be searching for a package name of this in any project, in any subgroup, under the top-level group, if that makes sense.
Like having a star, it would search for any module under this group?
Yeah, pretty much.
I ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
If we have a complicated group structure, so we have the instance, a group, a subgroup, and then multiple subgroups from there, two of those projects in those subgroups that are very varied, both have their own unique Terraform module, and it has the same name, but they're in two different projects under maybe even two different groups under the main group. Like, if we're not able to parse down, how do we handle that identical name issue? Or is that a non-problem with Terraform?
I think that's what Nico's talking about with a uniqueness constraint. So I think that's where we have to enforce it at package creation time. So if the first project has already come along and published a package with that name, and then the second project comes along and tries to publish one with the same name, the second one should fail.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I think that's the hope.
Technical question. Oh, sorry, Maria, go on.
No, go.
Wouldn't we have some performance concern on package creation that way? Because you may have to kind of very deep nested structure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would basically be incurring the group packages finder call.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, it's scoped to the top level namespace. So we just at least have that, but like we're not scanning the entire instance.
The reason that I asked, do you plan this to be on a synchronous operation or async? Because package often have async operation. So you accept the package and then you say, well, we will kick off a worker and then decide if we like it, yes or not. Or you plan to do this synchronously because this instead has impact for the UI.
I think right now it would be synchronous. I haven't seen an example of asynchronous with package creation. I may have to dig into that or find one.
I think Maven
or
NuGet, or NuGet, one of the two, because they need to unpack a tar file to read the package, and that's why it's done asynchronously.
So they just look like, I may have to ask for some help figuring out how they're doing it asynchronously, because from the code it looked like they were just their create like the Maven create package service just calls create package.
I may remember the wrong one. There's definitely two of them that use a worker for this. I'll ask and then revert the info. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love an example of that, because I think, yeah, asynchronously would be better, but just in case that the group package finder call is too expensive.
Maybe save in the database a list of module names, and you just check against all the module names of a group and don't have to check under the hierarchy.
Yeah, persist something at the top level namespace. Yeah, it wouldn't really fall in the existing patterns. We'd probably have to create something for that. I think we can probably just see how expensive the group package finder is.
My question was whether it's handled in the backend or front end, but according to your conversation, I figured it's handled in the backend. But if we have a list of modules, it could also be handled in the front end, right, by checking against this list.
Well, I think it has to be backend, just because there's no front end for uploading a package or creating a package for this, so it would all be a backend call.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, right now, yeah, I think right now the way I have the current package exists check is not the way that we want it. So I think right now it's only going to enforce it under the project. So it's going to have to be unique in the project, but not top level namespace. So that's another thing I need to fix. So I'll find out how expensive that call is for that too.
I sent you the package manager that uses a worker to process the file on Slack. I asked, got an answer. So it's NuGet, Go, and
oh, cool.
And Debian and Ruby gems. NuGet is the released one. All the others are beyond the feature flag if you want to look at an implementation for it.
Cool.
And the reason why I'm mentioning is because then they either don't appear in the list until they are ready, or they have a status that needs to be reflected as, not active, or you can't click it because you can't.
Got it. Okay. Oh yeah. So NuGet has a metadata extraction service. So it's extracting. Yeah, it's extracting the new spec. Okay. Yeah, it's not exactly, maybe Debian. It's interesting. There's like very few things that are like generic was honestly the closest thing to Terraform. Everything else is doing a lot of like metadata extraction and things that we don't need.
Yeah.
This was actually one of the simplest ones.
Yeah, I just wanted to share the knowledge. From the UX point of view, I'm really interested in point 3 of the agenda, but I don't want to hijack. I see that Ian and Maria are typing. So
you totally got this, Mika. We were having that conversation on the side.
Sorry, let me ask my next question, but I think I have the answer. I think I'm going to jump to the third question that I'm discussing with Ian. So in my original designs, I had created a separate navigation item under packages and registries that was infrastructure registry. And I was asking if we're going to implement it in the next iteration, or whether it's still relevant. I haven't checked the conversation, I think, that Ian is referring to. So
I can bring a quick insight there, or Matt wanted to answer.
Oh no, go ahead, Nico.
So we can actually still implement the own sidebar, because we schedule for this milestone the ability to store the type, so the package UI as a filter, right? And you are able to filter by type. So we will be putting that in the URL, and so the sidebar as a first iteration could still lead to the package registry with the pre-field on the type Terraform. And that's we can achieve on the first iteration. I'm confident that I can work with Matt on that, no problem. And if we want that way, we could also make so that the general listing never returns a Terraform module. So you will see the type Terraform module only when you are coming from the sidebar. So the user wouldn't get that they are getting Terraform package from the package registry, and then they won't get it anymore from the package registry when we move completely to their own UI. If this is acceptable.
Sorry, I'm missing something. So we're going to move them eventually to their own UI, to their own navigation?
Well,
But
they can, yes.
That would be, so from the UX perspective, in terms of package, it would be preferred. When we talk to our users, the reason the container registry and the package registry are separate, in theory, they're the same thing in just a different technology, but the way that users think about them is inherently different. I think Terraform fits in that same bubble of the way that you use Terraform, the users that use it are just different than the package registry. And so they should, especially as we expand the infrastructure stuff that gets stored there, I'm not quite sure what all is in there, but it would be good to keep them separate, especially from the beginning, rather than saying everything is a package, which is my biggest concern.
I agree. And I was also concerned about discoverability for Terraform. Like, would you think to go to packages? I don't know how people talk about the modules.
I mean, from my perspective, being a Terraform user, I really don't mind them being under package. And we're really starting to have, like, I guess backing up, if I have my my projects kind of organized, you know, I might have like some application projects and some infrastructure projects, and then some Terraform modules. The Terraform modules will each, for at least the way that best practices work and the way I do it, would each be their own project. And so, you know, as I'm moving through the navigation in GitLab, it's simpler for me to think of like looking for like a versioned artifact of something, whether it's an application or an infrastructure repo or a Terraform module. It's simpler for me to find them in one place, whereas we have these whole sections of the product that we're not using, like for a specific project. And we already have that with container registry, you know, and pretty much all of my projects, there's nothing in the container registry, but I have this navigation item and this whole feature of the product that's not used for that project. Like the product does not tailor itself to the type of project that you're working in. So I think we do want to be cognizant of spreading things out to all these different places, because if I'm clicking around between like an application that has a package in a package registry, and then I'm going into a Terraform module, I have to remember that I'm looking at a different registry now because it's a different type of project, even though they're really the same thing.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Matt, just to kind of get that context as a user of Terraform?
Totally.
Are you often finding yourself in a task where you need to look at one project for we'll just refer to them as a package independent, when you're looking for a package and then suddenly you would be navigating to a new project and look for a Terraform module with the same problem in mind? Is that a flow that you would be used to? Or
yeah, like
for you?
Yeah, like trying to track down where like what the latest version of a thing is, because like I'm locked to a version in this project, you know, of a dependency, and I may not want to go to just take the version constraint off, so I want to go find what the latest one is to see if I want to bump to that, like that kind of a thing. And like the group level package registry is actually really nice for that, because you can just kind of search across everything to find things. I don't know, findability of things in GitLab seems really hard.
Yeah, the problem is we're targeting large organizations where, well, you are the developer and the platform engineer in one role. In larger organizations, these would be different personas, and we haven't really decided which way we want to go. Like, we want to cater one and the other. In this case, we would split it for the large organization, but we would merge it for the smaller one. And that's
I will say I'm so sorry, Maria, go ahead.
No, go on.
From the package side of things, as we've been kind of looking over our personas and the ones that are most interested in what we're offering, we tend to lean to the enterprise. They need the big complicated solutions. It would be cool to get everybody, obviously, but small organizations, and maybe Nico and Matt can attest to something like this, but if you're in a scrappy startup, you're probably going to use whatever package manager is the default one, and you wouldn't use our offering anyway. So we tend to tailor ourselves to, we tend to focus on the enterprise first, because that's really our customers and our users.
Terraform is a core feature, but some of the modules functionality will be in the premium.
Yeah, and I've actually kind of made a point in the implementation to make sure that like I'm using Finder methods that will find like a user's namespace, not just a top level group for this, to be able to make sure that this feature is usable for core users, because we want to be able to kind of let people use the functionality, at least the basic functionality, so that they know it's there, so that when they are upgrading to a license or they're using something in a licensed org, that they then have access to more features on it, but they at least know that it's there and they're already used to using it. Terraform module for me is that kind of thing where it's useful. There isn't really a great like alternative other than you have to host it in GitHub. So the upstream Terraform, official Terraform registry, the hosted one, will only let you publish things from GitHub repos. And so this is a way for GitLab to kind of get into like letting users actually publish their own modules from a GitLab repo and not have to be forced to, break their Terraform modules off into GitHub and then keep their application code in GitLab and try to have this like split stance. Yeah.
That's so awesome. And I just want to qualify that, like, it should still be available, the feature set, and in terms of the navigation, it should be available for core. I'm not necessarily saying like, you don't have enough seats, you don't get Terraform. I don't think we should do it that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. I didn't think that's what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure that we are like if we need to lean to the enterprise for things, I also want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on on the smaller users, because I think they're also going to be kind of important for like getting us into those bigger organizations. I know that the last company that I was at, the only reason that we moved to GitLab was because we had a user who was a community contributor. We had an employee who was a community contributor who kind of like bootstrapped us into GitLab. And then we had compliance stuff happen, and then we were like, oh, we're definitely moving everything into GitLab. So. Sorry, go ahead, Nico.
Yeah, a concern about mixing the two on the code point of view, based on the ownership of the areas. So if we mix and match everything inside the package, we may end up in a situation where we want to change a bit of the UI or the data module, or I think the dependency proxy or even the package may have a 3-layer organization, a 3-page organization where we go in the detail of a file of the package, for example, and this will complicate it a little bit. So I think as an iterative step, mixing the two in one UI, it's an amazing solution. It's the solution that we should go. But if we can start with something that then can steer the UI on its own place, maybe at the maintainability of the code is a bit easier afterwards, especially because it comes from 2 different stages, right? So sometimes we may not communicate with each other or miss some information and, generate an issue because of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess going into this, I was a bit concerned of like relying so much on the existing package code for implementation, kind of because of that. But then, I really question whether or not I should just start with separate models and separate object storage and separate everything. But as soon as I started on that, I realized how much code I would be duplicating from package. And it felt like a really bad decision. So at least especially for the first iteration.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree 100% with you. I'm just trying to keep a look for the long term, because I see package slowing down a little bit to take care of on feature release, take care of reliability and stability because of concerns. And I don't want that Terraform then is like dragged down by this if you have a different speed, right? I mean, we already communicated that there was a performance issue that may have impacted this. Luckily, we are okay. So it's just on this.
Yeah, it's a good thing to keep an eye on for sure. I don't know. I hesitate to ask this, but do you think we should just start splitting everything out to be completely separate now?
I think if we can have a solution where we can keep the code like this and just reduce the stress for the user by having everything in package registry and then moved. So if we can have the Terraform registry on the side that points to the package registry pre-filtered, I think that's, I mean, then Maria and Ian can confirm this. This should reduce the stress for the user the moment that it becomes his own page, right? Because they are accessing it from in the same way. And then we can iterate on the code at whatever piece.
Is the user the same user? That's my question. Like, again, packages I think are published by developers, right? And Terraform is purely managed, at least in a large org, but from a sysadmin or platform engineer. So either way, it makes sense to prep and then split it, or somehow. I didn't understand how the initial flow is, Nico, that you were showing me before at the beginning of the conversation. So if we could go through that again, that would be great.
Yeah. So following your design, there will be the Terraform registry menu on the left, right? After dependency proxy. And when the user click that, they will land for now in the package registry pre-filled with Terraform module already. So they will only see Terraform packages.
I see.
And if we want to go fancy, we can also remove the ability for them to remove the type Terraform, right? So they wouldn't find themselves in the Terraform registry and seeing NPM modules.
I see. The nav will be a bit confusing in my opinion. Like clicking somewhere and landing somewhere else.
Yeah, so I would totally agree with that. If the navigation item is for the infrastructure registry, like they should land on the infrastructure registry page. Even if it's a clone of the package registry page, it needs its own navigation too.
That's what I was about to suggest as well. Could we clone the two pages?
We can. We can. I mean, this is behind the feature flag, so it can take a little bit longer, and we can do that. Yes.
I think it's all down to like what we want to do for iterations. Like as a first iteration, I think Nico's suggestion of basically you're getting the navigation item over here with the least amount of effort, so that people are clicking in the same place. And yeah, initially then it would, in the first iteration, it would take them to a page that says package registry and has type Terraform module. The next iteration could clone this page, change this to infrastructure, get rid of this, but they'd still be clicking on the same thing. So, we would have to leave that up to you if you think that's worth the first iteration, if you think it's worth that, or maybe we don't do that first iteration. We wait for it to take longer and do the second one. Does that make sense? But I think ultimately that's up to product designers to decide. Is it worthwhile?
And PMs, because Victor will want to release that. And if I say, oh no, I'm blocking you from releasing it, then my opinion doesn't matter.
It matters. You put your foot down.
There's no such thing. So for me, it's very confusing. We could get away with putting some messaging on the page if we wanted to release it, like transferring you to the package by saying, I don't know, the page is not ready yet or something like that. But I would rather we do the more complex solution as a first iteration, but depending on how much time it would take, obviously. Ian, what do you think?
I agree with you. I think our first time of kind of showing, hey, we can do this in the UI and introducing this feature set to the user is going to confuse them. We're going to kind of get a bad taste in a community that can sometimes be unforgiving and hold their opinions really strongly. So I do think if we're splitting it off and giving it its own unique path, that first experience has to be, this is a unique thing in its own registry, not a, otherwise we have intentionally formed a connection between packages and infrastructure that we're then going to break later. I see a lot of mixed feelings coming out of this if we were to introduce it, even if we are telling them it's an iteration. I feel like it won't. I would vote against it, but I am also lowly product designer number 4, so that's as far as my opinion can really go.
I have a question. What generates a bad experience? The fact it is called package registry and it has the text that says publish and share packages? Is those two things that is a problem?
So
Clicking
the
somewhere?
first,
Go on.
go ahead, Maria.
No.
The first thing is that when you have a navigation item that lands you in a different place than you expected, you've broken the mental model of how the application is put together.
Yeah,
we're already asking a lot for them to like know what project and what group and what instance they're in. So that navigation has to be pretty clear. And then the other part of it is we're inferring there's a connection between generic like code packages and Terraform, and then there isn't later. That will create a jarring experience for anyone excited to use the feature.
Okay, so I make you this proposal, which is feasible. It's just a little bit more work than what I proposed recently. So if you have Terraform registry on the left, you click, you end up in this UI. The URL is Terraform, it's not packages, okay? And it says Terraform registry and possibly a different text on the left, and everything that is package become module. I guess it's called module, right? This is going to be achieved by customizing a little bit the view app that spins the package registry and just tell it, this is Terraform, change this and that. Will that work?
If we could also lock the filter so that you can't undo the filter on Terraform, then we're faking it. I'm okay with it for first iteration. If it like just it's an illusion that it's what it's supposed to be, and then later becomes it, I'm okay with that. Do you have any thoughts, Maria?
Same for me.
So yeah, we can achieve that. And the reason why I don't want to clone the code is because soon we will need to refactor this from controller approach to GraphQL or API approach, as we discussed with Matt in the past. And I don't want to do the work for 2 different apps. It's much better that we have a customizable one. And this is achievable with more or less the same amount of work as doing the pre-filtering that I suggested in the beginning. Matt, do you agree? I see that you are at work to make it happen.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think it also, if we do this amount of work, it's a lot less than cloning the whole UI into its own front end, which is good, and I think that lets us ship a bit sooner. And the other advantage to that is that if we did decide to completely separate Terraform modules from package, just entirely on both the back end and front end, the front end experience would not actually have to change at all.
Exactly.
It would be completely behind the scenes from one release to another. The migrate rake task would move all the all the files from one object storage to another. All the database rows would be migrated, and the UI would completely change, but it would just be behind the scenes.
Can we, at the same time as this, avoid for Terraform module to appear in the package listing? I think it's pretty easy to filter it on the API, right? So the API say when no type is supplied, return everything minus Terraform.
Yeah, I don't know where.
It's the listing is from the API, from the Grape API.
Yeah, well, I actually don't know which endpoint that is. I can find it. But yeah, I don't think that should be too much of an issue. I'm trying to think what I think it would just be, yeah, not Terraform module, and that's all you would need.
Okay, so I just to clarify, I have a little bit of leeway for this milestone, and I can take this work on the front end side to enable the Terraform in 13. Was it 11 now? So I could work on this in parallel with Matt and achieve this what we discussed now. I'll think I'll update the issue. I think the one that Ian linked on the agenda to respect this if everybody is on board.
I'm on board. Don't mind me. I'm just mocking a UI just to see what it.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's for Maria and Ian. This sounds all right from the UX point of view.
Sounds great.
Yeah, sounds good to me. How should we capture the idea that we'll have to update? Because this isn't like really good fine polished code situation. We're kind of faking it. Should we capture that we need to like refine it into whatever it's going to be, or will that organically happen whenever it's ready?
You mean the further refinement after the first iteration is released?
Yeah.
I don't know how the work want to be captured. There is going to be a point where if the two registries diverge too much, one single front-end app won't be able to have the customization for both. But I think this will happen down the line. I think the package UI is still much richer than what the Terraform is for now. So we will have Element ready to satisfy Terraform needs for a while. And then maybe we want to have an issue that keeps track of the turning point that says, hey, you know, it's enough. We can't really, and we need to move on from this.
That makes sense. Thanks, Nico.
It does. My only worry, Nico, is if you move to other work and then you don't have time to help us with the UI for splitting it to its own navigation. That's my only concern.
Well, I think the best help for this is that I'll keep involved whoever wants from configure to be kept on up to date with packages. I was doing before with Emily. Wherever I would modify something that I knew that would impact Terraform, I will also ping her. I can keep pinging Emily, or I can ping Matt, or whoever is interested to be kept up to date.
I'm definitely interested.
Okay, perfect. Matt, can you take a screenshot of the? Oh, you refreshed the page.
Yeah, I clicked something by accident. Oh, I can redo it.
It's fine.
It might actually be good to discuss it a little bit though, because I just realized as I was doing this that we might have a decision to make about kind of what we call some things. So if this is infrastructure registry, then potentially we would have more than just Terraform modules in it. So then we kind of need to decide what our generic languages are around that.
Matt, I added a link to the original designs. Maybe it's time to take a look at them and see if the language questions are. Oh, they're linked at the top there. I've actually included Puppet as well because I knew that the package team is going to work on Puppet, but no, this is not the final.
So here's Terraform registry.
So if you move, yeah.
Should I start at the end?
No, I think you're at a good place now.
Oh, okay. So there's kind of a mix here. So this one says infrastructure registry, and I just saw one that had it as Terraform registry.
Maybe that was an older iteration. I didn't use to archive my older designs. Sorry. Yeah, that was
okay.
An older.
So older. So this is more what we're thinking. Okay, so kind of our generic language would be packages still. So it'd be infrastructure packages.
in this design, there's an all tab. So this all tab is meant to, if you have multiple infrastructure packages, to mix them into one list. So I'm not sure this is relevant yet.
Okay.
Since we don't have Puppet, so I guess we would only have a Terraform tab.
So
If
even
we
within
tab.
even within Terraform, there's a possibility of having more than Terraform modules. There's also Terraform providers and Terraform backends.
Are we working on all types for this?
For this iteration, we're only addressing modules, but I wanted to make sure that I named everything Terraform module in the code so that we would have room to add things without having to rename what we did.
So the tab here, we would have a Terraform repetition, but I guess that would be required. We would have Terraform modules and then Terraform providers or whatever else we would work on later. Or not? Do you see another?
We could. Underlying, I think they would all be pretty identical. So I guess you'd have to decide if it's okay to mix them together under the Terraform tab or to be separate. Again, this is a thing I struggle with because it would be very unlikely for a single project to be publishing both modules and providers and backends, right? They would only typically be publishing one of those.
Right. I think I wouldn't ask users. Go on, Ian.
Something that might help alleviate this issue is we've actually removed the tabs. They hit their maximum in the package registry. We are too awesome and have too many packages, types, and it kind of exploded in the UI. So we removed the tabs in general, and you have the ability to sort by type. We're working on, and Nico and I actually have some time devoted to this, of refining the filter and sort functionality. So thinking of Terraform as having 3 different types, what we may do is you can filter by Terraform as the infrastructure module type. And it could be Puppet later on, and we'll have that. But then you could also have a piece of metadata that's like, this is Terraform backend, this is Terraform provider, this is Terraform, the third thing that I should remember but don't. So moving away from that, moving away from the tabs, we might have alleviated the need to decide that right away.
Sounds good to me. Do we have any tab at all on this page, or do we just have a Terraform title? No.
Just the Terraform title, and then there's some metadata, like the number of Terraform modules and the size of it's available. There's 6 pieces of metadata, and I have no idea what was implemented and not. But there's like a title component, correct, Nico, that we've already formulated to match.
Mm-hmm.
I need to keep some notes of that, because possibly I will need to change the designs, right?
A note here, if we end up, since we are moving in the direction of cloning the package UI, right? What we'll get to customize in the first instance is basically name and text blobs, and with blobs I mean like paragraphs. Modifying more than that would be in force of splitting and have 2 different front ends for it. And the other thing, sorry?
I'm good with doing whatever you have in package, but maybe I will need to update the designs for iteration 2 for when we actually split them. Maybe I'm just keeping notes because these are outdated. I don't think you're going to work off a design, right?
No, but I will need a copy of all the missing packages and sub-headers and these kind of things, and which data points you want to see in.
I think we need to maybe work sync on that, because the copy here is old. It relies on the tagging solution where you didn't need to run a CI job to publish. So I think we'll need to somehow work on the copy, even through MRs when you are ready to push an MR.
For me, yeah. Okay, I'll ping you when I will write a copy based on what I feel like, and then I will ping you, and then you can adjust it.
Or you can write, lorem ipsum, if you don't want to spend any time. That's totally cool. And then Victor and I can work on it.
Perfect.
I did have a question as we're thinking about, I know we're almost at time, so I want to be quick about it. Plugging in, and we're going to be copying the package UI. Would it be beneficial, Maria, to partner, maybe sync with Nico for a little bit, just one-on-one, and say, these are the components that are available in the package UI, and then you have the knowledge already to be like, that doesn't need to be anything, that should be this attribute for Terraform, and that's not going to be anything. And do you think that would be the fastest way to kind of get us to building something together?
Yeah, I think so. So it's good that we're on the same time zone. So Nico, whenever, before you start working on it, like next week, well, tomorrow it's too tight. We can schedule some sync time.
Yeah, we can schedule something early next week because I would like to start this early in the milestone because I think it is going to be some iteration over the MRs. So we can partner early next week. I'll find a time on your calendar if it works for you.
It does.
Perfect.
Thanks, Ian, for the suggestion.
Also, sorry, Nico, that I kind of just volunteered your time like that. I shouldn't have.
No,
it worked so well for us that I was like, oh, obviously we should do this.
No, I think it's the fastest solution, and I agree it's the best for everybody.
I realize that not everybody has used Terraform or Terraform modules, so I thought it might be useful just to show you how people will actually consume these. So they'll actually just define their module with the module source that we saw before. And when they run Terraform init here, this happens. So it finds the module from GitLab and downloads it and uses it. It's a very seamless experience. And that's what we want. So this is the majority of how people will consume these. So they're not going to be interacting with GitLab really at all. The only people who are going to be interacting with GitLab around modules are the people who are publishing them, who are creating them, and deleting them, and deleting ones that they put secrets in by accident that they weren't supposed to, or things like that.
You have just described the whole user experience of package.
There's a reason for the delete button.
Matt, quick question. Do you have factories that build fake terraforms inside your MR?
Yes. There's a factory that builds the fake one, and there's a spec fixture that contains this actual sample module that I have here. So this is a module, a very basic one, main outputs and variables. And so all this one does is require a version of Terraform, and it creates a file.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so this is the spec fixture.
Perfect. That's what I need to work on the front end normally.
For sure. I'm trying to think anything else. I think I'm really good. If anyone has any questions about any of it, feel free to find me on Slack, and I'll be more than happy to help in any way I can.
Would it make sense to have a Slack channel for this collaboration, so we're all talking on the same space? Because in the past we had a bit of fragmentation of info.
We have a channel we can reuse for that. I think we have a Terraform registry. I'll go ahead and invite you both to it.
There is a Terraform backend and the Terraform, I think, right?
Yeah, let's use registry. Backend, I think we were using for the state.
Oh, I'm not in registry either. Okay.
Yeah, I'll add all of you. Okay. There we go. There's practically nothing in it yet, but we can change that.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Ian and Nico, thank you in advance for all of the help and all of the existing work and package that made this so much simpler.
We will rely the thank you to the other engineers in package.
Yeah, Steve and David have already given me some feedback on one of my MRs, and they were like, "You used our new authentication module." I was like, "It's awesome." Yeah, I'm about to ask them for some review on a separate. I broke out some of those changes in a separate MR because I think it's going to need security review because I'm having to generate JWT tokens